Hello, my name is Nifty Gnome, and welcome to my live action bookkeeping video. This is video number 8 in the Grand Gate Gardens case study, and this video covers May week number 2, May 11th to May 17th, 2025. And we'll be covering credit card reconciliations that don't reconcile and why I don't use Find Match to enter bill payments from the bank feed, and much more. Check out the link below to find out how to download these documents, request a topic, or find out more about my case study project. Now, on to the bookkeeping. Once again, I'm logged into my QBO for my Grand Gate Gardens case study, and this week I have open May week 2. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to download the bank feeds. I'm going to download them from the QBO files. Even though I don't start with clearing the bank, it's always helpful to have the bank feed there to refer to. So that's why we start with importing the transactions. So as it's a case study, I'm going to upload from file, drag over first the Canada Bank, and then we're going to go continue. And this is Canada Bank checking, continue, done. Then I'm going to drop this down, upload from file, and the Triangle MCard is the second one for us to do. Continue, Triangle MCard, continue, and done. Excellent. And next, let's take a look. Let's go back to the week 2 folder and go to the with notes documents. And I'm going to start, as always, with the charges. Now, something to note here is that there is the Canada Post payment receipt and the Canada Post general purchase receipt, and then the combination. And that happens twice in this bookkeeping week. And what is the best option when uploading documents digitally is if there's a purchase receipt and a payment receipt, you want to upload them both, because what happens is you can see the purchase receipt says what's purchased and says what the tax is, but it doesn't say how it was paid. And then the payment receipt has the total amount paid and also how it was paid, but it doesn't have what was purchased or the tax. And this happens when the store has a register, a sales register, separate from the point of sale debit credit card payment machine. And what happens is people tend to upload these separately or covering or only give us one, and we don't have all of that information. Especially when it's uploaded separately, what can happen is we might think that there's actually 2 separate charges. Think of a restaurant. You're going to have the payment receipt is going to have a tip amount that's not on the purchase receipt. And so you can see when you upload them separately like this, it's going to cause some confusion and wasted time and extra work, and it might even cause the bookkeeping to be inaccurate. So always upload them together. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to put in this one right here. So as this is a charge entry, I use the expense entry screen to put this in. This is Canada Post, and it is paid out of the Triangle. So that's the payment information is right there. And the payment date is May 14th. And I put for the reference number MC5252. The reason I do that is if my internet connection is a bit laggy, sometimes this payment account sort of reverts back even after I change it. And this reference number is like crumbs for me to know I typed this in consciously and this is how it was paid. And then the category, because it is shipping to the US, I'm just going to put this towards office expenses. And the amount is $17.50. And what's interesting here is you can see that there's actually no HST on this. And that's because Canada Post follows the place of supply rule when it comes to charging GST, HST, and PST. So if this was being shipped to Quebec, for example, Canada Post would charge me GST and QST because the place of supply rule says you charge the sales tax rate of the place where the goods take ownership. Because the goods are taking ownership in the US and US doesn't have GST or HST, then it is 0 rated and there's no sales tax. So we're just going to put in here 0 rated, and we're going to go save and new. So let's see what's next. Next, we have the QBO subscription. And when there's an ongoing subscription, I like to see at least one of them, and then I save that into a folder called subscriptions, and then I set up a bank feed rule to line it up moving forward. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we can see that it's charged to the 5252 MasterCard, and this is the breakdown. And let's come on over. Like I said, we're going to enter this from the bank feed and set up a rule. So we'll go over to the Triangle MC, and we're going to go and find, here's that Intuit charge, and this is Intuit QuickBooks, and office expenses is what I'm going to put this to. I don't put things to subscriptions because nowadays, like, that's like a throwback to like a long time ago. But now that we're in the internet and digital age, our subscriptions are like digital tools, right? So maybe, Canva is a digital tool. And then I would consider the bookkeeping software office expense. So I tend to not use subscriptions because it's too vague and not specific enough for what I think would be insightful. So we're going to go over here, and there's HST in that. And I am now going to go ahead. Everything looks good. Now that I've lined it up here, I can go ahead and create the rule. And this is Intuit QBO. And then so the money out, description contains Intuit. Now, interesting, money out only in the Triangle Mastercard. I don't want to say money out in the bank feed because that could be something different. So I'm just keeping it here. And I could say that it also includes the amount, but this is a temporary amount. It's going to increase after the 75% off promo expires. And so I'm not going to replace the bank memo. I like to keep the existing one, and I don't auto add anything because if it like jumps up hugely, or if the rule now starts running amok and being applied to things that I didn't intend it to, these are two reasons that over automation can cause headaches and auto add can cause those headaches. So I'm not going to auto add this one. I'm just going to hit save. Now by hitting save, I did not add the transaction. I just added the bank feed rule. And because of that, it's teeing it up for us. You can see that. So now all we have to do is click add. And it'll tee it up for us every single time. And because there's a rule that communicates to me myself, because this is how I do my bookkeeping, there's a rule because I've seen the paperwork and I know the sales tax that's being charged. So that's how I would enter this one. Let's go ahead and see what's next. We have another combined one, and this one's super interesting. If you were to only upload this to the digital document management software, it would be like, oh, Shoppers Drug Mart, 1040, no tax, right? Because it doesn't see tax, it doesn't say what is purchased, and it says Shoppers Drug Mart. But actually, this is a Canada Post within a Shoppers Drug Mart in Canada. So we can see that actually what was purchased was stamps and there is HST. So again, this is just me reiterating why you need to make sure that we communicate to the people who are uploading the digital documents that when there's two receipts, not only do we need them both, we need them both combined together. And it's also important that when you're uploading digital documents that you don't combine documents that are two separate transactions, because that makes more work, more headache, and more time. So only combine these two receipts if they are indeed related. And again, super helpful if you're going to a restaurant for a client meeting business meal, because then we see what the tip is, we see what the tax is, so on and so forth. So before we enter this into the bookkeeping, let me show you what it looks like on the bank feed here. This is the MasterCard bank feed, and it just says Shoppers Drug Mart. So there's no way to even know that this actually was Canada Post. So again, another reason that I like to do a source document entry-based bookkeeping and then use that bank feed to just make things go quicker and not be transaction centric from the bank feed only. So let's go ahead and put this one in. I'm not going to use the shortcut way only because I just go save a new on the big screen way. The reason that we did Intuit is so that we could set up the rule. So I'm going to go new expense, and this is Canada Post, also the triangle, and this is the 16th of May. And again, I just go MC5252. Office expenses is fine, and that's because we have exclusive of tax. I'll put the pre-tax amount of $920. I'll say that there's HST on that, and that does come to the 1040, and I'm going to go save and new. We'll take a look at what is next. Next, we have buried blooms. And what's interesting here is we've been entering the buried blooms as bills so far. And this is now in the charges folder. And the reason for this is because down here you can see that the amount of this buried blooms is actually just charged directly to the credit card the same date as the bill. So Sarah must have set up her credit card on file with buried blooms to just charge the credit card each time I pay. This is a great way to save time. Now she doesn't have to write checks. She can just have it paid automatically for her. And why partnering with a bookkeeper is helpful, because it's not just going to be willy-nilly charging to your credit card. Because if you communicate to the bookkeeper, please make sure there's a bill for every single charge, then in this way you're being more efficient, but you're also making sure that you're not going to get overcharged. Another reason that this is in the charges folder and not in the bills folder is if you were to remember my distinction between a charge entry and a bill entry. If the bill is being paid at a later date, you want to track two different dates. You want to charge the bill date and the pay date. If the bill is being paid by check, you've got a bill number you want to track on the bill entry and a check number on the payment entry, so two different entries. Even if it's being paid by credit card and you're paying three different bills, you want to have three different bill entry with bill entry numbers and then one payment paying all three of those bills. If it's one bill and no check number and same date, then it's just a charge entry, just like the shopper's receipt we put in, right? And that's the case here. So let's go ahead and just put this in as a charge entry. And so we're saving new. So who did we pay? It was Buried Blooms. It doesn't remember anything. This is the first time we've put it in as an expense entry and not as a bill. And so we're just going to have to populate it all. No prob, Bob. So that's May 16th again. And the reference number, I don't put MC5252 because there's actually a bill number that we want to track here. It's 599349. And then the category is purchases and materials, COGS. And they don't do a subtotal, so we're going to switch this to inclusive to make it quicker and easier. 466.59 with HST in it. And we can see 5368, 5368. We're going to go save and close because it's the last charge in the charges folder. Next, let's go and take a look at what's in the bills folder. In the bills folder, we've got 4 bills. Ooh, we've got an email transfer note. Interesting. So let's open the first one, Gnome Hardware. And she now has set up an account with Gnome Hardware. So we can go ahead and put this one in as a bill. So new bill. This is Gnome Hardware. And the bill date was May 12th. And then the bill number is XZ3123. And we can see that she purchased a wheelbarrow as well as mulch. So we're going to put this on 2 different lines. Again, the wheelbarrow, some people may feel like it should go to equipment, maybe on the balance sheet in the asset account, but it's below 500. So we're going to put this in as an expense on the profit and loss. But because it's a wheelbarrow and it's a tool that's going to be like in the shed, I've created a GL account that I use all the time called Small Tools and Equipment Expense. So, and then whenever I use that, I put in the description, wheelbarrow or what have you, so that if Sarah does go to sell the contents of the shed, she's got a lovely list of what's in there. And I find that could be helpful in the future. So let's go ahead and, well, for purchases and materials, the mulch is 197, and this is exclusive. There. 197.64 with HST, and then this is small tools, an equipment expense, and I'm just going to say wheelbarrow for 159.99 with HST. And let's go and see what the HST looks like. 46.49, 404.12. Excellent. We're going to go save and new. Pull over the folder. And next is a Funky Gifts Wholesale. So let's open that one up. And we can see there's a payment note for greater than the bill amount. And it says suggested category COGS. Enter the bill payment when both bills have been entered. And we can double check, but from my memory, there was a Funky Gifts wholesale bill that we entered last week. So let's see if those two bills add up to this amount. So we're going to go in and say Funky Gifts wholesale, and then the date was May 12th, and then the bill number was 59876. Retail purchases COGS, and then pre-tax amount is 1,243.98 with HST comes to 161.72. So I'm just going to hit save, and then there's this make payment button that pops up, and now I can see there's two bills to be paid. Now it's only highlighting this one with a check mark because I said, you know, I came to this bill payment screen from that one specific bill. But we can absolutely change that. It says it's paid on May 20th. So it's paid from the Canada Bank checking, and it's paid on May 20th. And then the reference number is 018. And let's see, do they both add up? Excellent. They both add up to 2611.66. And that is the amount of the payment. So we can just go ahead and save and close. All right, let's see what is next. Next is an email transfer deposited note. Now, big plug for always putting in a message that's very detailed when you're in business so that both the recipient's bookkeeper and your bookkeeper, or the recipient and you, future you, who wants to remember what you did and why, everybody needs to know why you're sending that e-transfer. And if you put it in the message, then you can even have these e-transfer confirmations sort of auto forward to your digital document management software like Dext or whatever. And then all of the paperwork is there for everybody whenever they need it. So always, always, always put good details in that message. So let's see right here. It says an e-transfer to Buried Blooms, and it's from Sarah to Buried Blooms. And Sarah says, sorry, the CC info I sent last week had a typo. Here's an e-transfer for bill 598,874. Please confirm the new CC info I sent over works for tomorrow's payment. Thanks so much. So let's take a look at how we have entered the Buried Blooms payment for 598,874. So we're going to go to suppliers, and I'm going to pull up Buried Blooms. And we can see that we do have a bill payment here on May 10th by the credit card for that 173205. And what it seems like is we've entered this because she wrote, I paid this by credit card, but we can see from the e-transfer that the credit card payment didn't actually go through. This needs to be changed to an e-transfer, and it needs to be changed to the date. What was the date on that? May 12th. Okay. So that's what we need to do, but I'm not going to do it right now. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pretend that Sarah didn't tell us that. And I'm going to show you what happens when we enter the bookkeeping with missing paperwork and not really knowing what that bank reconciliation can do. And this is a classic scenario that I see happen very often with DIY bookkeepers and new bookkeepers who might not understand the value of that bank reconciliation screen. So we're going to leave this and we're going to come back and fix it later. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at the next bill. The next bill is Chocoholics Nom Nom Nominous. I really love that name. Chocoholics Nom Nom Nominous. And even coming up with the names of the chocolate gift boxes is also a lot of fun for me. So maybe a little too fun. So we can see that there's no payment note on this Chocoholics bill. So we're just going to put it in as a bill without a bill payment until we find out more about the bill payment situation. So it is a bill entry. We go new bill. And this is Chocoholics Nom Nom Nominous. And that's May 15th. And the bill number is D7212. Purchases retail COGS. What's that pre-tax amount? 524.79 with HST for a total of 59301. Excellent. So we're going to go save and close because that's the last bill in the bills folder. Let's take a look and see what's next for us to enter. We got the invoices. There's a couple. Let's put them in. So this first one, it's just an invoice. There's no real notes, but we can just go ahead and enter this. New invoice. So this invoice number is 1006 and 1006 is next in line. Perfect. And the name of the person is Claire Annette on Reed Street. Save. And the date of this invoice is May 15th and the amount's 500 plus tax. So we're going to go ahead. This is garden design and installation for 500 plus tax. We're going to go save and new because there was 2 in there. Looking at the next one, it's 1007. And this one is to Barb Dwyer on Fence Circle. So let's go ahead and put Barb's in. Oh, she already is a customer, so she's already got another invoice out there. So she probably had a little extra work done. And that's dated May 16th, 1007. And how much is this one for? 455 plus tax. Maybe she had the front and the back done. So that comes to 514.15. Excellent. So we're going to go save and close because that is the last invoice in the invoices folder. Next, we're going to go to deposits. Oh, there aren't any. Maybe I'll delete that folder. Next, we go to payroll. And I did cover payroll in an earlier video, so I'm not going to go over it here. Because this was not done through payroll software, we would have to put this in manually into QuickBooks Online, but I'm going to be using these to also illustrate how the QuickBooks payroll works and how some of the things that still need a little bit of improvement, how those things work as well. So because of that, I'm actually going to be using the QBO payroll module for this Grand Gate Gardens case study right now. But you'll see, because the same tax tables are being used, it's going to come out to the same amount. And just something that's interesting to note from when we hired Kamal is this is a part-time job, and Kamal has another part-time job where he's already claiming the basic personal claim amount on his TD1 forms. And so because of that, he's filled out his TD1 forms for Grand Gate Gardens to say, I've already claimed the basic personal claim. Please don't claim them again. So that's why these are zeros right here. And we set him up that way in the QuickBooks payroll. Let's go ahead and run the payroll for this pay period. So we're going to go payroll. And I'm going to go to employees. And I'm going to say run payroll. And this is, it's very helpful that Sarah wrote down on the payroll deductions online calculator that she used, she wrote down the pay period and the amount of hours and how he was paid. So that's very helpful for us, especially now. You need to know the hours when you're doing up somebody's ROE. So that's why I have that payroll tracker Excel spreadsheet for anybody who has been doing manual payroll. Though I would suggest using a payroll software because it does end up being so much quicker and easier, even for 1 or 2 employees. But let's go ahead. Regular pay is 40 hours. There's no overtime, no stat. It's just a plain 780. Excellent. And preview payroll. Now we can take a look at that and make sure that the numbers match. and we can see current is 780. And here are the deductions. Income tax, 137.90. Yep. EI, 1279. Yep. CPP, 3840. Yep. Okay. So everything looks good. You can see that Kamal is getting his vacation accrued. And spoiler alert, he's going to get a raise. And we're going to see how that kind of messes up how the accrued vacation works in QBO. So we're going to go ahead and hit save. This is good. Make sure it says Canada Bank checking. Excellent, because it was paid via e-transfer. And let's see, pay date is May 16th. And is that what the pay date is on this one? Yep, May 16th. Excellent. So we're going to go ahead and submit. So something to note, if we were to print the pay stub, you can see that I have changed it to only show vacation accrued for earnings and not with hours. And in my other video, I did show how to do that. So that's important because I said the hours get out of whack really quickly, really easily, and you don't want that showing on the pay stub. So we're going to go close. And let's see what we have next here in our week 2. We're going to go to statements, and we have a MCard, Mastercard Triangle statement. I've been trying to say MCard. Sometimes I try to not use the brand names, but it's not always working. Anyway, so we have the Triangle MCard statement here, so we can go ahead and reconcile it, and we can also put in the online payment. I'm going to go ahead and put in that online banking payment right now so I don't forget. And again, I've mentioned it before, there are many ways to put in a payment. You can do it from the bank feeds, but we don't have the June bank feed yet. You can do a transfer because a credit card and a bank are both sort of banks that you can transfer between. You can choose pay down credit card, and you can put in an expense entry. I'm going to go ahead and put in an expense entry because I like to show the versatility of the expense entry screen. So the payee is MCard, Triangle MCard, and the payment account. We're not paying out of the Triangle account. We're paying out of the business bank, which is Canada Bank checking. We're doing that on June 5th. And I'm just going to say online payments. That's how I do online payments. And then the category, where is the money going? What are we paying? We're paying the Triangle MCard. And we're paying $500, no tax. And we're going to go save and close. Okay, so before we go ahead and reconcile this, we do need to clear the bank feed. So let's go ahead and make this a bit bigger. And we're on the Triangle bank feed right now. I usually, when I do the bank feed clearing, I start with the credit cards, then go to the savings accounts, and then go to the operating account. Because you can imagine a business owner on a day sending 500 here, 500 there, 500 there, and like, where did it go? But if we're at the recipient end, we're like, oh, 500. Do we see that on the bank feed? Yes, we do. So it's much easier from my experience to clear the credit cards first. Always, I remind people when we get to the bank feed section, the date, that's coming from the credit card company. Description, that's coming from the credit card company. The payee, that is QuickBooks guessing. The categorization, or what to match it to, that is QuickBooks guessing. Tax, that is QuickBooks guessing. Spent and received the amount, that's coming from the credit card company. So you don't want to trust these three, and know that your subconscious is going to want to trust these three columns. That's something that you want to really be aware of. When I do my bank feed matching, I look at the date as well as the name of the entry. So the date is May 13th. Our entry says it's Buried Blooms. It says Buried Balloons in the description, and the date's May 13th. So I feel confident. I'm going to go ahead and match that. Here's Canada Post, same idea. We can see that it says Canada Post from the bank detail, and we can see that it's the May 14th match. May 15th, we put that credit card payment in there. I think I might take a moment to show what QuickBooks Bank Feed does with that. If we haven't entered the payment. Let's go see, is it over here? It is. So these payments are very interesting because they actually get married to two bank feeds. You're going to see it hit the credit card feed and you're going to see it hit the bank card feed. So you want to be very careful not to enter it twice. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this payment that we put in to show what the bank feed offers up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go more. I'm going to delete. Yes, this is correct. I just want to show how the bank feed works. Now look what's happened. Because I did that, QuickBooks is highlighting. So I deleted that QuickBooks transaction. There is no longer a QuickBooks transaction entry in the bookkeeping to get matched and married to right now. And yet, QuickBooks, I can't scroll down because it's highlighting and it wants to pair to another transaction. This is not matching to a QuickBooks entry. This is like, ooh, over there, I see you have a triangle payment on the same day. Can I just enter this in and marry it to both of the feed line bank info lines? They're doing that probably because so many people were entering it in twice. Now, it's coming up with this let's confirm because it's the first time it's happened to us in this file. Usually, I'm going to hit X. Usually, it looks like this when it's not the first time. And we can add that credit card payment right from the bank feed because it's recognized it somewhere else. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add the payment here. Now, I added that from the, Canada Bank checking. So if I go over to the Triangle Mastercard, it's gone now. It was there and now it's gone because QuickBooks has cleared them both away for us and it added it for us. So we'll go see the last thing that got entered was this CC payment right here. So you can see that this QuickBooks entry is now actually married to two bank feed info lines. Usually an entry is only married to one bank feed info line, it's soulmate. Well, this QuickBooks transaction, pay down credit card or transfer, it now has two soulmates. It's in a polyamorous relationship. And if you see this pay down credit card or a transfer to an item that has two bank feeds and it's only married to one bank feed info line, that's where you know you have something that you need to fix or look into further. We'll address that actually in June. Another common error that I see when people put in a transfer or credit card payment twice. They'll put it in once from the bank feed and once from the credit card feed and have two separate transactions, basically telling QuickBooks I paid my credit card $1,000 twice. No, you only paid it once, and you're going to see a bank feed info line on both the bank feed and the credit card feed. That's why this is married to two soulmates. That's why it's a polyamorous relationship. Okay, so let's keep going with the Triangle MCard bank feed. Again, May 16th, match. May 16th, May 16th. If I expand this, you can see that we put this to Canada Post, even though on the credit card feed it says Shoppers. It was actually the Canada Post within Shoppers. So we can go ahead and hit match. So now we're left with what I call a lonely single. A lonely single is a bank feed info line that does not have a QuickBooks transaction soulmate. And we do have three options right now. We could enter this expense the big screen way by going New Expense. We could also enter this the shortcut way right from the bank feed. And the third way that we're going to talk about is entering also a rule so that it tees it up for us next time. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to say that this was a Triangle MCard who charged us interest expense. 0 rated is fine. Exempt would work as well. And I'm just going to go ahead and create rule because you can see how it doesn't always say the payee. I like the payee on every transaction when possible. And also, I can't always trust that QuickBooks is going to line this up the same way each time. So that's how the rule helps us to make sure it's teed up each time. So MCard Triangle interest. Also, I find that when I have rules and I have a lot of transactions to parse, We can sort by show me everything lined up by a rule and do some bank feed clearing super quick as well. So there's a lot of benefits to the bank feed rule. If it contains interest coming out of the Triangle MC, make it go to interest, 0 rated. Don't replace the bank memo. I hate how that's default. And don't auto add. Don't auto add. So we're going to hit save. You want to be able to see it and make sure that it's not accidentally categorizing something incorrectly that you didn't expect. Also, if it jumps way up, you're like, whoa, why is that? You want to keep your eyes on it as well. So now we can just go ahead and add this the shortcut way. And as a reminder, the big screen way, this is what we just entered right here. This is what the big screen way is of the shortcut way that we just put in. So before we reconcile the Triangle Mastercard, let's go ahead and clear all of the bank feeds. And let's go ahead and match the things that are obvious and we can see. So here's the e-transfer. Now, it doesn't say from the bank that it was sent to Kamal. It just says e-transfer sent, but we did enter a paycheck on May 16th for this amount. So we have a high degree of certainty that that's what it is. And we're going to go ahead and hit match. Now, because we sent Kamal that e-transfer, there's the e-transfer fee of $1.50, and you can see there's 3 of them. Why don't we line up a rule? So I'm going to go ahead. I'd always like to put the payee in. This is Canada Bank, and it is bank charges, and it is 0 rated. And we're going to go ahead and create the rule, and we're going to call this the e-transfer fee. And the description, Interac e-transfer fee. Excellent. All the things that we just lined it up with. I don't want to replace the bank memo. And again, we're not going to auto add it because we didn't say as long as it's $1.50. You can add that condition and say amount is $1.50. So we could do that. But what if it went to 2? Then we'd have to create a new rule. But we do want to see if it goes to 2, and we do want to see if it goes to 5 or 15, right? You never know what banks are going to do. And also, what if we had created the conditions slightly wrong and it starts to want to apply this rule to things that we don't intend it to? So for this reason, I never auto add. So I'm going to go hit save. And we can see that they're all teed up. So another reason that rules can be helpful instead of just relying on QuickBooks remembering what you did last time is see how we can filter and we can say, show us everything with rules. And you can just sort of scroll down and make sure you're happy with all those rules. Remember, you like to keep eyes on them. And then you can select them all and accept them all in one click. So again, this is just 1 week, but you can imagine if you're doing 1 or 2 months of arrears bookkeeping, that's just a lot of clicking saved right there. So let's go ahead. We've got 2 lonely singles now. And lonely singles can happen when we're not given all of the paperwork. So here's how I solve my lonely single problems. So the first thing that I do always is I look up the amount. So 1732.05. And we can see that there's a bill payment to Buried Blooms for 1732.05. So we don't know who that was sent to, but that's a clue. Remember, we did have that e-transfer note. I'm going to pretend we didn't get that note. And I'm also going to illustrate what happens when a bookkeeper does not do all of these troubleshooting explorations. So just keep that in mind. So see how looking up the number can help. Let's look up 594.31. So it can't find 594.31. So sometimes I like to see, maybe I put in a typo. Maybe I put in 594.32. So this is something that can happen when you're doing source document bookkeeping or entry-based bookkeeping instead of doing the bank feed transaction feed bookkeeping. So I keep the bank feed open and I hop on over to the reconciliation screen. So I've got 2 tabs going and I just crack open the Canada Bank checking. I don't have the statement yet. It's just the first week. So I just say 0 so I can go on in there and I just put today's date. Start reconciling gets me in. And the reason I come in here is because I'm looking for a white line for 594 abouts to see if I entered something a penny off. And we can see there's a bill payment to Funky Gifts Wholesale that hasn't gone through yet, but it's for a much higher amount and that isn't a typo of a penny or 2. So then I can go ahead and close without saving. I did what I needed to do with that one. So coming back, this isn't a penny typo. So the other thing that we look at is your unpaid bills. So if we go to reports and we have unpaid bills, I do follow someone who has like a shortcut. Open up all these tabs and reports every time I reconcile the bank. And one of those is the unpaid bills report. And when we look at the unpaid bills report, we don't see anybody who's actually owed $594.31. But we can sort of say maybe it's a few of these combined. And a quick way to check is by using Find Match. So using this match button, I don't actually use it to enter the transaction, and I will show you why right now. And this is something that a lot of people don't know. So I'm going to say match, and it used to be called Find Match. So help me find a match. And it's basically showing me any transaction I think it might be related to for a year here. So I'm going to ask it to suggest a match, and it says there's 2 open bills. So let's click that and see what happens. And you can see that these 2 Chocoholic Gnome bills add up to exactly $594.31. No pennies over, no pennies under. And they're both Chocoholics Gnome. So you can see how Find Match does do some extra digging for us. We can send a quick text to Sarah, was this to Chocoholics Gnome? But here we go. We can say, yes, I think it is these 2. So we're going to go, again, I'm showing you right now why I don't use this. I would then leave here and put in the bill payment myself manually. Here's why I don't do it with the match button. I'm going to hit match. Okay, so the reason that I do not like using this is because we have not represented a transaction that's actually on the bank feed in QuickBooks. You would think that we just put in 1 bill payment for 2 bills, but that is not what has happened. We have actually put in 2 separate bill payments. So let me go over here and you can see that there's a bill payment that we just entered for $225 and a bill payment for $368. There is no bill payment for that combined amount, which is actually what happened on the bank feed. Let me show you a bit more. If we go over to categorized and scroll down, here's that $594.31. It's not matched to one transaction. It's now matched to multiple transactions, 2 bill payments. And so if I were to click on this bill payment right here, you can see, yes, it's married to a bank feed info line, but you've got a bill payment for $225.91 married to a bank feed info line for $594.31. There is no transaction in QuickBooks right now for $594.31. There isn't one in there. $594.31. I'm going to look that amount up here. $594.31. We can't find it. So if you're troubleshooting and somebody says, hey, I see on the statement here we e-transferred $594.31 to someone, who was that sent to? That transaction is not in QuickBooks. If we were to go to the supplier, and we were to go to Chocoholics Gnome right here, you can see that we've got the 2 bill payments there, which it can get super ugly and messy and hard to troubleshoot when you have a vendor that you're paying 5 or 6 or 12 bills at a time. To have the 12 bills and the 12 bill payments, what a mess. Why can't we just, when we say match, 1 bill payment doing 2 bills? And again, when we go over to reconcile, so we're going to go to the reconciliation screen, we're going to jump right back into the Canada Bank checking, and we're going to say 0 just for now to crack it open and take a quick look at that. And let's scroll down to find it. And you can see here is the e-transfer. It is not showing us $594.31. Also, if I'm trying to troubleshoot here in the reconciliation screen, I Control F and I try to find $594.31. This is a Chrome find, so it looks for that text anywhere on the web page. It's not going to find it down here where it actually is. It's only seeing that little search that I had before. So there are so many reasons that I don't like that match button option. As you can see, it is not the end of the world. But as somebody who does bookkeeping for a living and has to troubleshoot and doesn't always have the information because life happens, and because that match option that we just did isn't an accurate representation of what's actually going on in the bank and on the statement, it just adds more complexity to when you're trying to fix things that happen in real life. So I don't use that match. Sometimes I use it to try and help find things like I just did, but I don't use it to enter. So next, I'm going to talk a bit about what the undo button does on the bank feed. So we're going to go ahead and close without saving because I was just cracking her open. We're going to go back to the bank transactions, back over to categorized, and down to this multiple transactions. And here, this undo, we're going to have a quick word about it. The undo button undoes whatever the bank feed add match button did over on the review. So if we were matching, say, to 2 existing bill payments already, then the undo would just unmarry because we only did match. But because we used the bank feed to add then marry or add then match, this undo does both the adding of the bill payments and the matching. So again, the undo action only undoes what you did in the bank feed. Okay, so simply by clicking undo on this, it's going to get rid of those 2 bill payments for me as well because we added it from the bank feed. Coming back over to the bank feed, we can see it again. 594.31. Now that we know what it is, let's go ahead and add it the big screen way and match it and marry it so that the bank transactions in QuickBooks actually matches what happened in the bank in real life. So there are a multitude of ways to do this. We could go to Chocoholics supplier, open a bill, and then say pay this bill. Or we can go new, watch this, I'm going to say expense. Notice how this is the expense entry screen, and I'm going to say Chocoholics, nom nom nominous. And when I say Chocoholics, because it has open bills, unpaid bills, it pops it up on the side here. And it says, hey, are you actually meaning to say that these are paid? It's trying to help us not double enter income. So yeah, we can go ahead, and it was the older 2. So it was this one and this one. So you can see, look, it's switched it now to a bill payment. So this is a one way to quickly get to the bill payment screen. And that was actually on May 15th. And it was an e-transfer like this. So, and the third bill wasn't paid. We're going to go save and close. And we're just going to refresh the bank feed here. And now we can go ahead and match that bill payment that is now incorrectly, as opposed to being 2 bill payments when it really was just 1. Again, doing it the other way isn't the end of the world. It's in, but it gets messy, doesn't quite represent what happened in the bank, and can be very difficult when you're troubleshooting questions and unknowns. So now we are left with one lonely single. We know who that is. Because we saw the e-transfer note, and also we knew to try looking it up like this, and we could see, oh, Barry Bloom's, there was a bill payment, and if I remember, it was entered by credit card. But not everybody thinks to do all of these troubleshooting steps. They just get here and they're like, what is this? And they say, and they text Sarah and, hey, Sarah, you sent an e-transfer on May 12th of 1732, who is that to? Oh, she says that was to Buried Blooms. Or maybe you have access to the online banking yourself, and you can go on the online banking and see the e-transfer history and see who it was to, and there's no message. It just says Buried Blooms. And you're like, Buried Blooms. Well, I probably don't have the paperwork, but since I know it's Buried Blooms, let's put it in NR. So in the industry, that's what we call no receipt or need receipt. So we're entering this in without the paperwork. So we're like Buried Blooms. Okay, and that's not NSF clearing. That is purchases on materials. And there is HST on that. And I would usually put a tag NR because they're going to sunset that. So I'm going to just put asterisk NR here just to make a note that I've entered this without the paperwork as a source document, and just hit add. So that's what a lot of people would do. And now we have that buried blooms expense in twice in QuickBooks. So how would we know that, and how would we find that? You can imagine that if Sarah had told us originally that she had paid that buried blooms by her personal credit card, then we might never know that that is now in twice. So again, don't use the personal credit card, only ever use the business credit card. It helps keep your bookkeeping so much more accurate as well as efficient. So you want good data that you can rely on when you're making business decisions, and you want the bookkeeping to go quicker. So never use your personal credit card if you're running a business. When I say personal, I mean mixed use, right? So never use a mixed use credit card that has personal and business on it. Only have a business dedicated credit card, which actually Sarah right now does. So let's go ahead, and now we can reconcile that credit card and see what this looks like. So we're going to go ahead and reconcile. Now I can bring over that MCard statement. So we've got the opening balance, the payment, the purchases, and the closing balance. So let's go here and say triangle. And so what was the statement ending balance? So that statement ending balance is $411.76, and the statement ending date is May 16th. So we'll put in May 16th, and we'll start reconciling. So we're actually off by $476.99. So that's the first issue here. Why are we off? If every time we clear the bank feed, it automatically checks it off here with a little blue circle check mark, why is it? Because the bank feed is wrong? Like, what's going on here? Are we missing an entry? So people don't necessarily love that you have to do it the old way to try and figure out what's wrong, but that kind of is the next thing that's available to us. What is the old way? Well, the old way, before we had the bank feed, is we would go down here and we would say $1,000, like this. $1,000, click off 1,000. $39.89, click off $39.89. Because the first thing I check is to make sure that the beginning balance matches the statement and the ending balance matches the statement. If you have a typo there, you can go to edit info and just change it. But after you've confirmed that, it's just math, right? If you've got a beginning balance of $485 and you pay $1,000 and you charge $39.89 and then charge $71.75, like clicking off each of these manually is how we do the manual bank statements without the bank feed. Since it's just math, it's just a matter of going, and one idea, and I'm not going to do it now, is to unclick all of this and then just do it manually. 1,000, 1,000, $39.89, $39.89. And in extreme circumstances, when there's a lot and I can't see it right away, that's when I use the Control F to sort of look up, oh, where is that 1750? There it is. So that's sort of the old school way. We're not going to do that now though, but I'm just saying that that is the option. And I kind of do that in a shortcut way, because what is actually happening here is you can see that if the transaction date is May 15th, it actually doesn't hit the statement until May 16th. And so when I'm off on a credit card statement, I just assume that it's because there's a bit of a transition time here where it's hit the bank feed on May 16th, but it's not going to hit the statement until May 17th. So we're going to do a shortcut way of the old school way. So let's start from the bottom. Down at the bottom, we've got interest. And is there interest here of $809? Yes, there is. So that little circle guy stays checked. Then the next one is 1040. Is there a 1040 over here? No, there isn't. There's no 1040. And we can see that it was one of those May 16th ones. It cleared the bank feed on May 16th, but it's not hitting the actual paper statement until May 17th. And because this 1040 is not on the paper statement, we uncheck it. Okay? You only have the little circle check if it's on the paper statement. That is the key in understanding how the bank reconciliation works. This is why we did a manual bank reconciliation at the beginning of the course, to sort of say this is how it works in general. Let's keep going because we're still off by 466.59. Look, there's 466.59. That actually is also on May 16th. Do we need to look at the statement? We'll look at it, but you can see. Is the 466.59 on here? No, it's not. So you can see that if your credit card statement isn't reconciling right away, don't fear. It's common that credit card feeds are a day off than what is actually at the end of the credit card statement. So now that we have a 0, we feel done, right? Our brain's like, yes, finish now, check mark. But no, we're not done. Remember, whenever you're reconciling, not only are you making sure that everything that is on the statement is in the bookkeeping, you also have to make sure that everything that's in the bookkeeping is on the statement. That is, we need to look at the uncleared transactions and see if we're okay with them. A check that hasn't cleared for a day or two would be okay with. So that's an uncleared item that I'm happy to leave. Down here, we know what's happening with these. There's a day delay. We're going to see it on the next statement. These are uncleared items that we are happy to leave. But this uncleared item, I am not okay with, right? A credit card payment should happen within a day or two of it being processed. So something's amiss here. We know what it is, right? We know that it's because that credit card payment didn't go through and she sent an e-transfer instead. And this is why you need to reconcile the bank and the credit card. A lot of people think that the bank feed clearing is all they need to do. You know, you have to take this extra step of doing the reconciliation. And a lot of people just let these white lines or these uncleared items sort of accumulate at the top, not quite knowing what to do with them, thinking, well, I'm reconciled, I can keep going. No, this isn't reconciled. You haven't resolved the uncleared items that you're not okay with. And as I mentioned before, if Sarah had been using her personal credit card that we weren't reconciling, we wouldn't even see this. So this is classic. I often see people not realizing that they have to actually reconcile. They think the bank feed clearing is enough. And I also often see white lines, uncleared items accumulating at the top when people ask me to review their QBO file and see why something's not making sense and they're not sure why. And a lot of times you've got a time crunch. You've got to go, how do you resolve this uncleared item? You're not sure. And sometimes you don't always have somebody to ask. So now let us go ahead and resolve this uncleared item. So when I'm trying to resolve things, what I do often is 1732.05, look up the number. This search box is fabulous, and we can see that we have a bill payment, and an expense. So that sort of indicates to us that there might be some double entries going on. Not always, right? Sometimes you order the same thing from your vendor again and again. But let's go over to the suppliers and let's go to Buried Blooms. And we'll go to Buried Blooms. And it's pretty obvious to me that this expense is a duplicate of this bill payment. So if we go into this expense and we want to delete it, it's already married to its bank feed info line. Not a big deal because we can just delete this, change that other payment to an e-transfer, then go back to the bank feed and remarry it. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and more, delete, delete. And so now that if we did that delete, if we go over to the bank feed, we should see that it's released that bank feed info line to be married to another soulmate. So let's go and create that soulmate, shall we? So we said Buried Blooms is paid by the credit card. We're going to say no, it's paid by Canada Bank on the 12th. And see how it put it up to the next check number? Nope, this was an e-transfer. Remember, don't let that reference number be in there. If it's not real, it's a red herring. But the full amount was paid. We can go save and close. Yes. Now let's go over to these bank transactions. I'm going to hit refresh. And now we can go ahead and marry that bank feed info line to the correct bill payment. And it is now no longer in twice. Let's go back to our reconciliation screen for the Triangle Mastercard. You can see we could just leave. It remembered where we were, so there's no problem. And now it says 0, and that payment that was an uncleared white line is no longer showing because we deleted it and correctly put in that e-transfer. As previously discussed, we are okay with these 2 white lines. There's no other white lines or uncleared items for us to wonder about. So we can go ahead and hit finish now. And as always, I'm going to attach the statement so they're all together if we ever need to go look for them. Bring it over and hit done. So that is it for our Grand Gate Gardens case study, May week number 2. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you found the information helpful in the building, growth, and the success of the business that you are working in and on. So if you're interested in downloading the case study source documents I worked on today or in any of the previous videos, or if you have any special requests for topics you'd like for me to cover in upcoming weeks, you can find out more information in the link below. If you found this video useful, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm also on Instagram at BeThatBusiness, and I'm at Nifty Gnome on Twitch and TikTok. And you can find resources and courses about running a Canadian business on my website, naomiwilkins.ca. I love making business make sense. The video today was recorded in beautiful Newcastle, Ontario. Thanks so much for watching, and get out there and be that business that thrives.